welcome back to Crimson Glass on YouTube, and this is part one of finishing a series. Let's get Fool Me Twice done. That's a working title. We are kicking off a new vlog series where we talk about the discovery process, we talk about the writing process, we talk about the editing, you know, we do all that. And in this particular vlog series, we are going to be going on a long journey together because we are doing books 2 and 3 together. And I thought about re-recording that because the cat just walked past, but I'm just gonna move on with my life. Let's briefly recap where I left you guys. Book 1 completed. We started planning that thing on August 1st. We started writing it on October 1st. We started editing it on January 1st, and I finished posting it in June. Do you know what? That's actually not a bad turnaround for a book that was over... How long was that stupid thing? God, that was like I don't know. It was like really long. It was one of the longest books I've ever written. Yeah, according to Archive of Our Own, it is 237,000 words. Like, that's actually not that bad for less, like, basically 10 months of writing. Like, I'm actually, you know what? That's pretty damn good. So the plan is to write 2 and 3 together. I'm going to plan them together. I'm going to write the first draft together, and then I'm going to edit them together, I think. The editing is a little bit like, I'm not entirely sure how that's going to go. We're going to see how it goes with the planning and the writing. If you have never watched one of my vlog series before, which is possible because I know that I got a couple of new readers this summer because they let Jason and Elizabeth in the same screen for more than one scene a year, which is basically what we've been getting up till now. And I saw people on Twitter recommending me. If you came to me through a Twitter recommendation, thank you. And if you're one of those people I saw recommending me, thank you again. You're what keeps the lights on, basically. I don't know that I could write for just myself. I think I really rely on just having something to write for. Fool Me Twice Book 1. If you have not read Book 1, I would stop and, you know, go read that before we get into it, because while I do not like to give away spoilers in these vlog series, and I think I do a pretty good job of keeping them away, I'm going to be talking about things I did in Book 1 that I'm working on connecting in Books 2 and 3, so obviously you're going to have to be comfortable with that or have read the book. When I do a writing process, I have 3 basic stages. We have planning, drafting, and revision. Thanks to Lonnie Diane Rich, who I will link in the description notes, I have a lot of writing terminology that I have adopted as my own. I adopted as my like I use it. So if I will, like I said, I'm going to link her stuff below, and please let me know if there's ever anything over time I want to go into more detail, because I will. So discovery process for me is where I sit down and actually think about what I'm writing. Sit down with the premise, we make large scale decisions, and we just basically plan it out. I am a planner. There's two different writers. There's planners and there's planners and pantsers. Yeah, I have tried pantsing it. I used to be a pantser when I was a kid, when I was much younger. I'm 37 now. When I first started writing when I was 18, I'd write a chapter. I wouldn't even reread it for typos, and I'd post it. Like, I was a pantser. I was writing, like, things went where they went, and I just went with it. And I think I can't live that way. I do that with flash fiction sometimes, and it's like stressful. I like to know where things are going. I also like to know where things are going because then I can, like, layer it in. Like, if I know that we're going to be, for example, you know, doing a thing at the end of the book, I want to be able to lay the foundation for it at the beginning of the book. Now, it's totally possible to do all that in editing, and, like, authors do it every day, and that works for them, and yay for you. It does not work for me. I definitely experienced that when I was writing Book 1 of this trilogy. I left big chunks of it unwritten. There were every single chapter started with a flashback, and I ended up rewriting every single flashback for the most part. And I ended up adding a bunch. Like, at the end of it, I think I still had, like, 18 or 20 I had to write. And, like, that was super stressful for me. And it also, like, made the story harder to edit for me. I like to plan. So, when I do discovery, I start with kind of my first step, which is just premise. What am I writing about? What is the thing? What are we doing here? And what we're doing here is we are finishing a trilogy. Yay! No, that's not helpful. So what we're doing here is we are rewriting the return of Jason Morgan to General Hospital in 2017. Book 1 gave us everything that kicked it off. Jason returned. They discovered which twin was which. They discovered that they were twins. Drew and Jason struggled to rebuild after all of that. Jason's been gone for 5 years. Drew is trying to figure out his identity while he still remembers being Jason Morgan, but doesn't remember being Drew Kane. He learned he had a son, Oscar. You know, Jason learned that Jake was alive and that Danny is also his son. Sam worked with that. Elizabeth broke up with Franco and held a gun on him. All good stuff. I rewrote the fall of 2017 in book 1, and we moved the pieces around on the stage. We also learned how deep the memory experimentation goes. It was a Helena and Victor joint production. Nicholas does know some things. He's in the background. If you skipped any of the flashbacks, you may or may not be aware of it, because Nicholas is alive in the flashbacks. Nicholas has been working really hard. He knows what's going on, and he's been working with somebody else off screen. And, you know, where is that going to go? The premise is continuation of book 1. So when we left off in book 1, Jason and Elizabeth have recently just started dating again, even though after it's only been about 2 months since she broke up with Franco. And Cameron really reacted badly to the ending of the relationship with Franco, not because he liked Franco, but because he's going through his own things with Lucky. He is dating Trina, but Emma is moving back, and Emma was his ex-girlfriend in middle school, and is kind of like his childhood sweetheart. Joss and Oscar are dating. They're in the background. Spencer is thinking of moving back home, so that's the teen scene. Drew and Sam have broken up because Sam is not reacting well to everything. She's kind of very frustrated. She doesn't feel like she's being supported by anybody. She feels very isolated and alone by the beginning of book 2 beginning. And Valentine has located both a set of Helena's memories, a flash drive with Helena's memories, and he's also located Stefan Cassadine, who is in a coma. And we don't know if he's been in a coma since 2000. We don't know anything. That's where we left off. I think that's all the big stuff. That's the premise. And he is in Turkey, and the twins know that he has gone to Turkey. So that's the big stuff. There's 1,000 other things going on. The Susan Moore murder is happening. Carly is being gaslit by Nell. I'm starting to kick off that story. A lot of my readers would like Carly to pay hard. And let me tell you how much harder it is to write a version of Carly I love. In this last year, when Carly became, she was already pretty insufferable, but something happened this year where they decided she was the star of the show in a way that, I don't know, it's a lot. And so that's where I start with my discovery, is okay, what is the thing, generally I'm writing about? And book 2 is pushing forward the twin plot. Okay, Valentine now has Helena's memories. He's looking for somebody to put them into. Who is that going to be, and how, what is he looking for? Right? And we know he's looking for the true Cassadine heir, because it turns out he's not the Cassadine heir, which happened on the show. He's Helena's child on the show. I don't know if they said who the father is. I don't really care. I don't pay attention to that shit. He is Faison and Helena's child. I think that's actually much more useful. And that explains kind of why Faison is going to the trouble that he's going to, why he's in part of the plan. So, book 2 Valentine needs to be, at the end of it, ready to implant Helena's memories to finish the final part. So that's where he is in book 2. And then, so that's kind of the big stuff. So that's the premise. That's the general idea. So from the premise, I move into just brainstorming. And then I just start saying, okay, here are all the characters. Here's all the things I would like to have happened. I don't worry too much about, trying to make it all make sense at that point. I'm just throwing things at the wall. Here are some teen things I'd like to have happen. I want everything to feel very connected. I want it to all feel organic. I don't want anybody to feel like they're ever in a bubble. So I want Drew sharing scenes with people outside of the bubble. I think he was very much bubbled in the first story, which made sense because he was figuring things out. But I'd like to see Drew more into the world. I'd like to see Jason more in the world. I want to make sure I'm connecting all of those dots. I want to see Jason and Elizabeth figuring out an actual relationship, and how it's working with Cameron, who is trying very hard to pretend he is okay with all of this, even though he's been through a lot, and it turns out Lucky's a giant dick, which we knew, but Cameron probably did not know as well. So that's kind of the brainstorming stuff that kind of goes in there. What do I want the teens to be doing? What do I want Liason to be doing? What do I want Carly and Sonny to be doing? What do I want Nell to be doing? So all of that goes into the brainstorming. And then that's kind of still where I am in the process. I'm still very much at the brainstorming, because what I'm doing is I'm plotting book 2 and 3 at the same time. And I have just started really figuring out the structure. When I'm planning a trilogy, I need the trilogy, narrative, what is the overarching trilogy narrative? And then each book has to have their own thing. That's, providing it a book. Why can I call it a book? What makes this a narrative unit? Other than, it was 237,000 words, this seemed like a good time to stop. Why is book 1 a narrative unit, and what makes book 2 a narrative unit, and what makes book 3 a narrative unit? So it's I need to know those 3 individual storylines, because a book also has to have its own individual pacing. You don't want to be bored in a book. You don't want to be something needs to happen every single chapter. And a storyline needs to keep moving. So you got to think about pacing. So that's like also important. And so that's what I'm kind of like right there figuring out the broader strokes, because I know what my narrative unit for book 2 is. We are going to be finishing up the Franco storyline. Franco's going to be gone by the end of the book. So spoiler alert, but that's okay. I can live with it. So that's what I'm working with. And Franco as a character has a lot of connections on the canvas. He is, for better or for worse, he is connected to Scott, so that gives me something for Scott to do. He's connected to Elizabeth and her kids still. He's also connected to Carly and Michael, so like there's still stuff to be mined there. He's connected to Heather. He's connected to Liesel, Obrecht. He's also, as you found out in book 1, spoiler alert, stop here if you haven't read it, part of the memory experimentation, so he has to tie into that larger narrative. So it makes sense that he's been lurking around in the first book. Like, he basically did just kind of like, he was kind of like a big part, and then he had like little spots of scenes, but he's really just been very much in the background, waiting for Elizabeth to be kicked to the curb by Jason, because he's pretty sure that's going to happen, because it always happens, because, you know, that's the plan. What happens when that's not the plan, right? Like, what happens next? So that's that. And then I have to figure out, like, for the Carly storyline, where is that going? Because Carly's a really big subplot, because Carly's a very big part of Jason's life. And, like, we can all disagree to the extent to which we like that aspect of the Jason Morgan story, but, like, to ignore the fact that, canonically, Carly is the person who has been in his life for the longest time without, like, break, outside of Sonny. So depressing. Like, I mean, that's what it is. It's Robin, Sonny... No, so it's actually Robin, Carly, then Sonny, then Elizabeth. So that's my girl. But Emily's dead now, doesn't count. All right. So Carly is a very part of Big Jason's life, and you know, we are really doing a thing with Carly where I think she was a rough character to deal with in book 1, because I did not intend to make her sympathetic, and I don't think that a lot of you guys who already don't like Carly are going to continue. Like, you didn't find her sympathetic in book 1. And that's fine. I don't think she was meant to be. I don't even know that she needs to be sympathetic in book 2. I think I'm rewriting the gaslighting storyline, because I think the Nell character is such a gorgeous reflection of who Carly came to town to be, that I think that they missed the boat on what they needed to do with Carly and Nell in that particular storyline. When Nell got pregnant on the show, and, you know, Michael was basically like, accept it or lose me, and Carly kind of had to like and face herself with it. And then Nell started gaslighting her by thinking that Morgan was alive, and I think that was the mistake the show made. I think it should have been she needs to be haunted by Morgan. And Carly also does have a very fragile kind of like mental health. She has had nervous breakdowns. She has had psychotic breaks. I think that if you ignore that, you're just missing out on something that's really interesting. So I do have a version of where I would like to have seen the story go on my soap blog. I'll link it. Basically, where if Carly thinks she's being haunted by Morgan for the choices she's made, it would be an excellent way to do the turning point on that character that we desperately need. Because I'll never forget, and it's like, it's one of those lines I will hear for the rest of my life in my ear, where Carly looks, like, this happened a year ago when Nell was on her final spree, and Carly and Nell were up on that cliff arguing.
You kept testing me over and over again and pushing until anything good between us was destroyed. And you know why? Why? Because you can't let yourself be happy. Okay. You won't accept kindness, Nell. You won't accept love. And I get it. Because I used to be the same. I used to test and push anything that was good in my life away until I broke it. I don't know why I turned a corner. Oh, really?
Bitch, where? Like, when did I miss this big turnaround where you are now this? Because, like, yes, clearly it happened. Did you see it? I didn't see it. It's fine. Basically, yeah. I would have liked to have seen a big turnaround for her where she isn't the kind of big-ass fucking... I'm fine. I love Carly, and the only version of Carly I get to love anymore is in my writing, so I've got to be able to find it. Basically, I am writing the stuff that I would have liked to have seen before Carly gets to tell Nell, but I did a turnaround. It's like, no, you didn't, bitch. No, you didn't. I'm fine. I'm not bitter. It's fine. So that's where I really, really like to go with Carly. I'd like to give her that turnaround where I'm like, maybe if you guys aren't sympathetic to her now, in this book, because I don't know what the timeline of this book is going to be, I guess we'll see. I know some of you guys want Michael to be a more active part against Nell, like to know that he's being manipulated, and I hear you, and don't think I haven't noticed it, and don't think I'm not thinking about it. So, Yeah, but I'm just very much in the brainstorming stage. Please, feedback, thoughts, opinions. I would love to get some. I will see you guys when I see you. Have a great day. Bye.